Welcome to another Instagram Live of the Audiovisual Division of the American Translators Association. My name is Daniela Costa. I'm the live events coordinator. And today we have two very special guests. They are from a company called Pixelogic. You may know this company, I'm sure. And they will tell us a little bit about the process of dubbing audiovisual material into Native American languages. Especially we'll talk about the film Prey, which was released just a couple of months ago, I think, and how the process was working in this film, which is really, really interesting. So many people joining. So I will invite Shana Priesz to the conversation, and she'll tell us a little bit more about this exciting project. Give me just a second. There she is. Hi, Shana. How are you?
Oh, hi, everyone. How are you?
Fine, fine. Thank you. Thank you so much for being here. We are really excited to have you here.
I'm excited to be here, and I'm excited that other translators were interested in a project that was really dear to our hearts. So I'm happy to share that and happy that people are interested in this.
Yeah, there's so much excitement. So first of all, tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do, and what's your role in Pixelogic.
Okay. I work in localization at Pixelogic. I run the territory operations, which is really language operations for audiovisual, dubbing, subtitling, scripting, all of that. I've been in this industry for almost 25 years. I didn't plan to join, the entertainment industry. I kind of fell into it as a linguist. I grew up in Burbank, and so there's a lot of studios around, and someone somehow said, why don't you take your languages experience and, apply it to, films and TV series. So I've worked at, DreamWorks. I worked on the studio side, and then also the vendor side. So Technicolor and Deluxe, and now Pixelogic. So been around a long time.
Yeah, that's great. Such a great, vast experience for sure. Yeah, we know, you were the dubbing producer of this film, Prey, which was dubbed into the Comanche language. Yeah. And why is it so important for you to dub into Native American languages?
Well, Star Wars was the first time I ever dubbed into a native language or an endangered language. And that's a key part of, we at Pixelogic dub and subtitle movies in 80 different languages, but there's always a challenge when it's an endangered language because there's less speakers. So when you talk about dubbing something or subtitling in Spanish or French, you have millions and millions of speakers and talent and translators, but when you work with an endangered language, it's a lot more limited. And then you're trying to do justice to a film with limited resources. So there's over 3,000 endangered languages now, and I think it's really important to preserve those languages. And because I work in the entertainment industry, that's something I can give back to the community, is the art of doing a dubbed or subtitled project. And with the limited amount of speakers, you always hope that it's not only documenting their language as a time capsule of some language that might one day be extinct. But my hope is always to encourage people to learn their language. So culture and language to me go hand in hand. So there's a lot of people who have Native American roots, but maybe didn't learn the language growing up. So, as part of dubbing the project, what was important to me was that we also, subtitle it in English so that young people could, use it as a teaching tool, an educational tool. And maybe just get excitement into them to actually go and learn a language that, is their heritage. So
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and we hear so much nowadays that people are learning languages through movies with platforms like Netflix, HBO, Amazon, whatever. So with by reading subtitles, they learn languages. So this is a way of preserving the language. That's for sure. I love the name endangered languages. It's like endangered species.
It is
It's the same. Yeah,
exactly the same.
definitely.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
go extinct as well. So it's the same as animals.
Yes.
Language can go extinct and or it can be an endangered language. And so,
Hmm.
we put so much emphasis on endangered animals, how to, build up their species again and not let them go extinct. And so this should be something that we're all striving for to keep these, languages alive.
Yes, definitely. And well, you were involved in this film Prey. I mean, you were the producer. And um, how could you? I mean, how was it possible for you to gain the trust of Jane Mayer? Sorry, I'm reading the name, and the Comanche people involved, because I mean, this is a very sensitive issue. I mean, dubbing and translating into the language. So how was the process of this?
So it was a very interesting story because we were at Pixelogic, we were already working on the original version of Prey. So, the story point of Prey was that, the predator goes back, 300 years to a Comanche village. So it was in English, but it had sprinkled in little lines in Comanche, little, words here and phrases there. And then I was, approached by the executive producer, Ben Rosenblatt and Jane Myers, who told me the story that they actually intended the movie to be shot in Comanche. And they thought they weren't sure if that was going to go to the wider audience and that it might not, I don't know, be as widely watched. So they shot the movie in English, but had sprinkled in all the cast had Native American roots, spoke some Comanche. And when they were finishing the film, they were in post-production, they said, why don't we dub it in Comanche? And so it happened that I was already working on it and familiar with the original version. So when they said they wanted to dub it in fully in Comanche, I was obviously intrigued and interested and excited. But what really, really sold me on it was the fact that it had never been done before. So obviously, Star Wars was released, 40 years ago. So when we dubbed that, we had to do casting and they weren't the original actors. But when they told me this is going to be day and date released on Hulu platform the same time as the original version, and we want to dub the whole cast, the whole original cast is going to dub their own lines into Comanche. And that really sold me because I thought that has never been done before. And it's amazing that all of the original actors were so interested in doing this and excited to do it. And then that just builds your enthusiasm also as well. I knew what the challenges were going to be because of Star Wars. So the difference of Star Wars is that I think we had more time. And this was, they were still doing post-production on the original film while we were, recording it. So we had a shortened timeline. There's always a challenge and there's always a way to overcome it. And we did. And it really is a whole team, to have the original filmmakers and someone like Jane involved who, had so much input into how do we translate this phrase and what was the original filmmaker's intent with how they were saying this or what they really mean. And I think that having that like communication with the original filmmakers, involvement in the dubbed version, we don't get that very often in other films that we dub. That I have a direct line to the producer of the film that is answering my questions and listening to the recordings and giving guidance. And so I think that's why it was such a success.
Wow, that's amazing. And how long did it take you to complete the process?
About a month and a half.
Only a month. Oh my God! But recording, I mean, translating, recording the voices, everything in 1 month and a half.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
When an audio file goes to platform, so it released on August 3rd, you still have to do packaging and delivery to the platform weeks and weeks ahead of time. So we were done by end of June.
Oh. Yeah. It's crazy. And how do you contact I mean, from the linguist's point of view, how do you contact the translators for this process? I mean, projects. Is there a database, or how do you approach them?
So, when we recruit linguists, we obviously recruit from ATA. We recruit from universities, and there's lots of different linguist databases and platforms in different countries. But with Comanche, there's only 100 native speakers still alive, native fluent speakers. And the majority of them are elders, so they're a lot older. But we were lucky because there was a man named Guy Narcomi who was the consultant on the original version. So he was on set. He did ADR with them. So he was the language, the Comanche language, and so he was kind of recommended to us that he was going to be involved in the full dubbed version. So he was consulting on the little lines of Comanche that they had done in the original version. So we asked him to join, obviously. And then Deborah, I'm still actually not sure how she did this, but she tracked down Dr. Catherine Briner, who is the language development director at the Comanche Nation. And she's a very busy lady because she leads, preservation, education, everything. And we somehow convinced her, to do dubbing, which is, it was something new for everybody. It was like a crash course on dubbing. So even though they speak the language, and I think Charles will explain a lot more about lip sync adaptation, but it's not as easy as let's just translate this. Obviously, subtitling translators have, reading speed, character count. There's all this technique. There's a technical technique to subtitling as well as dubbing, where if you're a translator or interpreter, you don't have these technical restrictions on how do you fit the translation into audiovisual, projects like that. So the two of them worked with us very, very closely, and we're so grateful that, having two amazing linguists working on this when there's really only 100 native speakers, we found some linguists.
Wow, Debbie is saying it was a lot of work. Yes, I can imagine how hard it was. But and find people, I mean, as you said, I don't remember the name of the doctor, but preservation, I mean, she must be really, really busy with all kinds of tasks. And this is, I mean, pure entertainment, but it's a way of, reaching out, maybe younger generations in a way, I think.
I hope so, because imagine, and she has a full-time job, and so she spent a lot of evenings, working till late at night to squeeze this in. And obviously it's very important to the whole Comanche Nation as well, so they supported her on this. It was a limited amount of people, and we're like, you're the only one. But again, I commend them for stepping up and learning something that it takes years and years and years for other linguists to learn lip sync adaptation, and they had to learn it, overnight.
Yeah. Tell me about it. Yeah, yes, it's incredible. I mean, and the final result is amazing. But we always like to know a little bit more about the process, because we will, anyone working on subtitling, dubbing, whatever, we know that I mean, there's much more behind what we see on the screen.
Right.
So yeah. And did you teach them, I mean, how to translate dubbing scripts, or because I think there was an adaptation process then, of course, as in any dubbing project. But how did you approach the translation process in that sense?
I think that the two of them, you know, we had a paper script that they translated literally. You know, so again, having two people is wonderful, because I would watch them have that dialogue with each other about the most minute, you know, words. And, you know, with an ancient language, it's always difficult, that you have some doubts, because it's, you know, an ancient language that maybe didn't have those concepts that you're trying to translate in something that's current. You know, obviously Star Wars was even harder, because we were talking about space and future. So
yes.
I mean, to be honest, I think Star Wars was more difficult to translate, because there was concepts that the words didn't exist. So when you talk about a lightsaber or a spaceship,
yeah, I was going to tell you that.
I said, you know, how are they going to translate? And they came up with very beautiful descriptive words to describe something, where in other phrases it was very, very easy. Like, may the force be with you. That was the easiest line to translate in Star Wars, because they have that concept. It's a very spiritual language. So
yeah,
you know, that was easy to translate. So Prey is an action film. It's not heavy dialogue. I'm not going to say it was easy to translate, because it's always challenging, but it was, I feel it was a lot less, because the content was, the concept was set in, you know, an older, you know, Comanche village. So, but they still like work together, teamwork. And then sometimes, you know, they would have to think about something, and we would come back to that after they thought about it overnight. And then they'd say, well, what about translating it this way? Or, you know, sometimes Dr. Briner would go back to other of the elders and say, okay, we're thinking about this. What do you think? So it wasn't just the two of them. I would say it was the whole, you know, community that had some sort of input into this project.
Wow. I mean, the vibe of working together, and I mean, then seeing the final, I don't know, this was, I wasn't going to ask you this, but it came to my mind right away. What about the screening when they watched the final product? What was the reaction?
They did have some special screenings in Oklahoma for the community, and you know, obviously they've never seen a movie dubbed in their language. It's very emotional and exciting, and I think it really gives them that feeling of being proud, you know. And that's why I worked so hard, is because you don't want to do an injustice to the original film or to the language. It's like, if you're going to do something, you really need to do it so well, so that they can have something that they're proud of, and something that the whole community. And what's interesting to me is non-Comanche people, excitement and interest. I mean, for Hulu to put it on their platform, and I've been watching some Facebook groups of non-Comanche speakers and non-Native American people that are so excited about it and rooting for them. So, you know, I really hope it does something for the whole, you know, obviously I'm American. I'm always trying to do something for Native Americans. I mean, I really hope that some of the platforms, you know, invest in this to preserve some languages, because, you know, obviously at Pixelogic, you know, we're very supportive, but you know, the studios and the platforms to also be supportive is such an amazing thing.
Wow.
So thank you
incredible.
to Disney, and thank you to Hulu.
yes, thank you to all of them. And you talked about Star Wars. and it was translated. I mean, it was dubbed into Navajo language. And how I mean, I read something about this, but what happened? Who came up with the idea of doing this, and how was this process?
So I think it was let me see, 9 years ago that we dubbed Star Wars into Navajo, and the director of the Navajo Museum in Window Rock, Arizona, had written a letter to Lucasfilm and said, we really want to dub, Star Wars Episode 4 into Navajo. And, he waited 2 years to have Lucasfilm actually agree to it. And so someone from Lucasfilm had called me, and I was working at Deluxe at the time, and said, this is the craziest thing, but they want to dub Star Wars into Navajo. And I don't know if you guys can see my Instagram name, but it's Star Wars Pets, and I'm a big fan of Star Wars. And I thought, like, this is the greatest thing. I mean, I didn't get to work on the original dubbing back in 1977.
Of course, you're very young. Yes.
But I thought it was a great idea, and like something challenging. And so I agreed to be involved. And again, it was again the same sort of community excitement about it. We really made a big deal out of it to get all of the people excited about the fact that a movie was going to be dubbed into Navajo. It was the first time ever, and they all, but again, that movie was different because we had to cast voices. And in Episode 4, there's only two females, the Aunt Beru and Leia. And what was interesting was Navajo is a very matriarchal language and community. Like they're a matriarchal system. So we had so many women audition, and we only had 2 roles. But there was a lot of men that were involved. But again, Navajo, there's a lot more speakers actually, but they're spread out all over the place. So they're not kind of in one place. So Prey, what was great for me was that it was all the original actors. We didn't have to cast anybody. So a lot of them, spoke some Comanche, but not anyone really fluently. So, and I think Charles will talk more about the adaptation process, but both challenges for Navajo and Comanche was that people that speak it don't necessarily read it. So the script was a phonetic script. And then we also recorded a guide track, and we sent it to them ahead of time so they could practice their lines and pronunciation, later. So we did that with both of them. So there was a lot of tricks I learned after Star Wars that I applied to Prey. And so that was one of them, was like the audio guide track. But
wow, so many things we take for granted when we work on, Spanish, French, Italian, German, whatever project.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, incredible. And are there any other indigenous languages you'd like to dub apart from these ones you work with?
Well, dubbing, it costs money. There are certain things that cost money. So, it's not like we could do it for all the languages, all the time. It's something that, there's still some costs involved. There's so many indigenous languages, even in Latin America, that I would love to dub. There's endangered languages in Europe and Asia. So I don't know if it, specifically indigenous, but definitely endangered. That I would love to work more with that. And I think that a lot of other languages have seen these kind of projects happening, and hopefully they'll start reaching out as something that could be done. But there are some languages there's only 4 speakers, and it's like at that point you can't dub a movie.
No. They pay for the ticket, and that does not cover the costs of dubbing, or yeah, I understand. Yes, and we know you are now working at Pixelogic. Is the company supporting these efforts of dubbing into these languages, these endangered languages? What's the approach of the company?
Yeah. So, you know, we do dubbing and subtitling in, you know, multiple languages every day for features and TV shows. But when an opportunity like this comes up, you know, it's not just me who thinks this is a great idea. So I have the full support of the company, who wants to give back to the communities and do something special. So we jump at an opportunity of something that will be, you know, special and that we can be proud of. So with Prey, it was all the executive management of the company, you know, the head of audio, the head of dubbing, the head of mixing, everybody that worked on it were actually the management, who doesn't necessarily get involved hands-on day to day, but because it was so complicated and special, you had to have people, the veterans of the industry who've been doing this so long, to kind of make it up as we go of how we can, you know, accomplish this. But yes, at Pixelogic, we're so proud, you know, to donate our time, you know, donate our services for something that, you know, is going to make a difference in the world.
Yeah, so congratulations, because it's an amazing work, really.
Thank you. And then
yes.
and then I want to tell you that there's a upcoming ATA conference in Los Angeles that Pixelogic is sponsoring, and we're very, very happy to be involved in this. And we're actually planning an event for translators to come see where we recorded and mixed the Comanche version of Prey. So I think that you will put in the comments how to.
Yes.
We definitely, you know, we have a limited capacity for it, but you know, if anybody is interested, they would be able to sign up in facility at Pixelogic.
Great. I will try. I have the link here. I will try to publish. Here it is. I think you can. Then we will post it also on our Instagram link tree for anyone to see it there. Maybe it's another good opportunity. I think it's great to go and see from the inside how the work is done. If you're a newbie, or even if you are truly experienced, I wish I could be there. I can't travel this year.
But I think
visa problems here in Argentina. Anyway.
So, you know, some of our translators, you know, work from home, and they're in their country, and they've never seen where it is that their files are going to, and how do we do the next steps after your translation is done? What are the next steps in the process? You know, they're very technical steps on packaging and delivery to platforms or digital cinema. So I think it's very interesting. I think would be interesting for a linguist to see the rest of the process. Yes,
I'm sure it will be. So thank you so much for being here. We loved it. We loved it. Now we'll talk to Charles about the more technical aspect, because he's the director. So we'll see. But thank you, Shana. You've been so kind to be here, and we are really excited to have you here. Thank you.
Thank you all for your time. Thanks for joining.
Okay, see you next time. Bye-bye.
So this was amazing, wasn't it? So now I will invite Charles to the conversation, and he will tell us a little bit more about this.
There he is. Hi.
Hello. How are you?
Fine. Well, how are you? Thank you for being here.
Yes, in this very hot morning in California. It's 95. It's 95 degrees outside my office here, so I'm leaving the door open to get some fresh air.
That's great. We are approaching spring here in Buenos Aires, so it's a warm day. It's not too hot, too cold, so it's great. So Hi, Charles. Tell us a little bit. With Shana, we were talking about Prey and everything, but
Mhm.
what's your role in Pixelogic? What you do?
I've been hired by Pixelogic to build the English dubbing department because they are they are doing dubbing in multiple languages, like at least 25. So they have a lot of vendors all over the world. And now that the English dubbing is booming here in the US, they still have also vendors here to do that. But they thought it was the time to have an in-house operation as far as English dubbing is concerned. So with my experience in dubbing in general and in English dubbing in the last 4 years, where I really jump-started the high quality and high volume English dubbing, they contacted me, and I thought it was a nice challenge because building is what I love.
Yes, that's yeah, we all love it. So, what was the main challenge of this project, this specific project, Prey? I mean, diving into Comanche language.
So the main challenge of this project was first to find the right people to do the adaptation, because as Shana was talking, there is sorry, there is only 6 native speakers remaining. So it was a challenge to find people who could really nail down the adaptation, respect the sense, the meaning of what it was said, and especially make it lip sync, because in the dubbing process in general, we start with a translation that you are very well aware of. So in general, this is what we call a literal translation that is very faithful to what was said in the original language, and then we have to adapt it, because technically we need to match the movement of the lips. That's why it's called lip sync dubbing. Yeah. And to achieve that, there is the most important thing is to locate the labials, which is when the two lips touches, so the BMPs. So basically, we look at a dialogue, and we try to locate all the labials in the dialogue. Of course, when it's on screen. When it's off screen, we are totally free to do whatever we want, which is good. But when it's on camera, we have to map all these labials, and then we have to come up with an adaptation where all these labials are respected. And when we can't with a labial, we try a semi-labial, F, V. So it's basically mapping. It's mapping a dialogue to the movement of the lips. So of course this comes at a cost, I would say. We need to compromise. So there is different way to compromise, either by finding synonyms of words where there is a word that's going to contain this labial. The other compromise is to take the general idea of what is said and find maybe another way to say it. Or there is also, in a sentence, there is, in an idea, there is orders. We speak by a little bit of sentences, and sometimes what comes after, if we put it before, then it's going to match nicely the lip sync, but we're not going to betray what is said. So it's really a word of compromise. And on top of that, it has to be very natural, because when we do a translation, sometimes we can have a tendency to go to a translation that is very literal, and that is maybe not the spoken language as somebody would naturally say. So we have to be careful of that as well, and also of the level of language of each speaker, because a lawyer will not talk like a cop that would not talk. So
of course, the register, yes.
Yes. So on this particular one, because of course I don't speak Comanche, so we had Guy and Catherine from the Comanche language department, and they are the one who first did the literal, I would say, translation, And then we went to a studio and we looked at each piece, and we were looking and see, can it work lip sync wise? And if it didn't, they were asking me, but why didn't it work? I said, oh, I need a labial here. I need one more flap. You know, when we call flap, it's when the mouth does this. So they were here to say, oh, okay, to try different ways of saying the same, you know, the same dialogue with different words, different adding a word because, oh, we were missing some flaps. And I was asking them to really play it, because, you know, saying it in a very cold manner might work, but all these characters are in situation. So if they are scared, if they are, so the speech, the speed is not the same. So I was trying, even if they were not actor, but they ended up being very good at doing the guide track, and that was very, very helpful for the actors. I really pushed them to say, okay, I'm going to try to put you in the situation, and then you'll see that the speed is going to change. You're going to put emphasis on certain words, and we wanted to capture that and put that against the picture and see if it's believable. Because you know, in entertainment, in movies, we ask a lot from the audience. We ask the audience to believe a story that they know from the start that it's not true. So they already precondition the mind to say, okay, I'm going to watch something and I'm going to put myself into a position where I'm going to believe it. I want to believe it. So that's the first effort that we are asking to the audience. Now, when it comes to dubbing, we are asking a second effort, because, for example, when you watch any, let's say a Korean series dubbed into English, the audience, they know that these people, they don't speak English. So we're going to ask them, on top of believing the story that they know is not true, we're going to ask them to believe that this character that they see is speaking English. It's his mother tongue. That's a second effort that we ask them. So if we want the audience to be captivated and not to drop after a while, we need to make that really nicely. We need to entertain the magic of, oh yeah, they're actually speaking English. And in this case, they're actually speaking Comanche. So, and the good thing about the Comanche, I think, let's put it that way. In my experience, you know, in linguistics, for example, there is what they call, I mean, I don't know how you say it in English, but there is the two axes. In French, we call that l'axe paradigmatique and l'axe syntagmatique. So the one that is like linear like that is how you order the words in a sentence. And the one like this is all the what you can replace with. So in any other language, we can look at synonyms, and so try different things. With the Comanche, it was a little different, and it was pretty amazing to work with these linguists. It's because it's a language that uses a lot of images. So basically, they didn't have instead of using synonyms, they did. I don't want to say that it's a poor language, but they didn't have all these synonyms. They compare to things, to animals. So they say, you know, as quiet as the fox. So they use a lot of images. So it was funny to see the two linguists coming up with all these images to represent the same concept. And it was not just different words; it was altogether different expressions. And on top of it, it was a male and a man and a woman. So with of course different sensitivity. So that was a nice. It took some time, because all of a sudden you have almost a debate about something, you know, and about each line with the 2 point of view, male, female, me trying to say, give me a flap here. Do you have something where I can put a labial here? So it was a nice we had to be very focused, but it was a very, very, very nice experience working with this language that I didn't know. And
yeah, and the synergy. Sorry, the synergy required is, incredible, because everyone should be on the same page in a way. I mean, you discuss this term or this labial or this, but you all try to reach the same result, definitely, which is a good quality, natural dubbing. And I imagine using expressions. I mean, I don't know how the length of these words, but sometimes when it happens the same when you are translating anything or maybe subtitles, you don't have the exact equivalent. For example, I translate into Spanish. So I don't have the exact equivalent, but I have a phrase. But sometimes in subtitling, for example, it's too long. So I have to discard that because it's impossible. Was it the same with these expressions, or how did you manage that?
Sometimes
or maybe
we had to go a little, away from the original, in a sense that we were not betraying, but sometimes you use a negation to instead, because that's the best way to translate it, to say the contrary of what's said, but with a negation. So when all that cancel themselves, you fall back on the right meaning. So it's a lot. It's a lot of tricks. It is not an exact science, and that's what makes it really interesting. If it was an exact science, we would already put that into an AI machine, and we would have already an adaptation or a translation, right? And there's a big discussion about artificial intelligence, and I think it will get somewhere someday, but first it's
not now.
It's going to require to learn a lot,
Yeah. But the creativity, I'm amazed at the creativity behind this. I always say, because I'm a subtitler, so I always say I respect dubbing people so much, because I think it's much harder than just translating. I mean, the process is so complex that achieving this result with such a high quality, it's amazing. And in a month and a half, as Shana told us, just 45 days to do all of this. Oh my God, I thought it took you 6 months or something. I never thought it was so rushed.
No, but we have that. I have to say that we have also some tools. We use what we call a prompting software, and it's basically a karaoke for actors. So because in the old days, the actors, they had a script, a written script, and there was a bunch of time codes. So you know what is time code? It's exactly at very precise. And so the actor had to look at a page, kind of learn the sentence, because they're not gonna be reading, because they need to match what's on screen. So they kind of learn a piece of the line or the whole line, and after that, gonna watch the time code on the screen and try to do a countdown to make sure that there's gonna start with the actor that is on screen, and after that, follow the actor on screen. So it's a very, very difficult process, because you have to be acting naturally, and at the same time, you have to be careful. You have to read and watch a time code. It's a lot. So first of all, there's not a lot of actors who can do that. You need a lot of experience. You need 6 months of it, a year, before being comfortable in that process. Now, with a karaoke, you have the words that are scrolling on the underneath the head of the actor. It's scrolling with a trigger bar, and the word change colors exactly like karaoke. So all of a sudden, all of a sudden the actor, it just has to act, because everything is here for him. The words are here, and he knows exactly, he trusts this prompting software. So he starts speaking when the word touches the trigger bar, and it gives him the rhythm, and it is much easier than the old way. So that's also why we can achieve that kind of result where we really think that the actor is speaking the language we hear.
Well, as we always say, technology is here to help us.
Absolutely.
So yes, it's a good use of technology in this case.
Not to replace us, but
not to replace the actors, but yeah, of course, to help us. And well, you used the same actors as the ones appearing in the movie. And did they have an experience in dubbing, or
no,
they learned with the software?
Yes, they had no experience in dubbing, but in general, they have a little bit of experience in what we call ADR, because when you shoot a movie and you go on location, sometimes the sound is going to be difficult. It's not going to be usable for a certain amount of reasons. And so sometimes the actors are asked to go back to the studio and to do ADR, to dub themselves, but in the same language. So that's a little easier because they know, they have I would say a vivid memory of what they did on set or on location. So it's pretty easy to follow their own steps, I would say, with the same language. Now, when it's a different language, that's another challenge. But the good thing is, because they are the original actors, first of all, me as a director, I don't have to explain who are the character. They know the character better than me. So I'm just here to help them make the dub believable, but I don't have to explain anything about the story or the character. But sometimes, though, and I discovered that myself as an actor, is I told them that dubbing themselves give them an opportunity to kind of add a nuance to their acting, which means they could have on set said something with a certain face, let's say, like very angry, and in the acting and in the voice, there's a lot of anger, for example, and we can see the anger on the face. In the dubbing, they can tame that if they want to. It's going to create this little disconnect, a creative disconnect, because a disconnect has a kind of a negative meaning. But in this specific instance, it creates something that's a little disconnect that can be very interesting creatively. Wow. And sometimes I would, suggest stuff like that, and they would say, oh yeah, okay, and it work or it doesn't work. At the end, it's their choice, it's the character, but it was a very interesting experience. And they are actors, so with the right tool, they didn't have any problem or concern, or it was very natural. And actually, we went pretty fast. We went pretty fast for yeah. That's why you said, oh, it was done. It's amazing how fast it was done, but the adaptation was the longest process, because that's when there's all the debates, all the about meaning, about technical, about labials and all that. Once that's done and well done, the actor arrives, read and act, and when we do the playback, they're like, oh wow, it works. So sometimes I had to say, okay, this one you have a pause here, you didn't respect the pause, so let's respect the pause, or give me a little pause, and we can, with the technology of Pro Tools, we can expand the pause. So after that, we have our little tricks like that. But it was pretty straightforward. I was very, very surprised, because in general, actors are very scared of dubbing themselves, because they are afraid that it's not going to be as natural as it was when they shot the movie. So you just have to comfort them and say, don't worry, you'll see, it's going to be extreme. You're a good actor. you can reproduce that even in other languages. It's you, no problem. When it's not the
Well,
same
it's
actor, yeah.
natural insecurity, of course, but everyone was, I mean, incredibly professional.
Yes,
From
absolutely.
what you say, yeah, from what Shana said, yeah. And you traveled to Oklahoma to do the, not the dubbing, but the adaptation
Yes,
process. Is
yes,
that
yes,
correct?
yes. The adaptation, we did that in Oklahoma with the producer Jane, who is also a Comanche, with Guy and Catherine, and they recorded. We did that in a studio. Not that we needed to do it in a studio, but because we wanted to record the guide track to send to the actors, and also to. It was the best way to put our adaptation on the benchmark. It was to try it. So that's what they did. So it has a double purpose. One purpose was to send that to the actors so they can kind of like, rehearse or get familiar with what they will have to say. That was one. And the second one was to make sure that the adaptation was lip sync. So we did that. And after that, I went to Vancouver to record Amber, the lead actress. I mean, we didn't do her whole part because they are moving from set to set. So after that, we finished that in Los Angeles. We did that also with Dakota Beavers, who's playing his brother, and we had other actors that we recorded remotely. So that's also that's another gift of technology, is that now we can also do that remotely, and they can still have the prompting software. I mean, technology helped us a lot on this one, because we had some actors who were in Manitoba, like 2-3 hours from the first city. So so that was we used every possible technology, live, on studio, and remote.
Well, one of the advantages of this pandemic was to find, I mean, dubbing studios had to find resources to work remotely. So
we when it was the pandemic, we continued dubbing, but we had to be very creative, and we found technical solution that were pretty amazing, and now we're still using that. I mean, I prefer to be in the studio with an actor. I mean, the physical presence you cannot replace that period. But I have to say that especially in a big dubbing project, you have the leads, and you have also incidental characters. So with a nice balance between remote and live, I think you can achieve a lot.
Wow, great. And have you directed any other challenging projects like this, or something
I hope they're
out of the ordinary?
Out of the ordinary? No, the main. It's not the first time that I'm using the original actors to do a dub. So that I'm familiar with that, and I think it needs to be developed even more, because with all the series now and content that comes from all over the world, I mean, we can always dub that with American actors. I mean, there's no problem with that. But when it has a cultural print, I think dubbing it in English with American actors, I mean, it's still going to be entertaining, but there is a loss somewhere. So if these actors, because a lot of actors around the world, they speak English, as long as their English is understandable for an American audience, I would always make the choice, if they want. First of all, you need to ask the actors, but I would always prefer to have the original cast dub themselves in any language if they can. That will be my first choice always. Now, if it's not possible, we can mix and match. I mean, there's a lot of things we can do. It's like cooking. There's a recipe. There's one recipe, and after that, there's 2,000 chefs, and they all have their own way to do it.
Of course, of course. Well, I think that's the best definition. So thank you so much, Charles. This was
You're
really,
welcome.
really interesting. I mean, knowing, learning from a director, because we are always involved with words and meaning and so and so, but the process is so much more than that. So
Yeah.
for us translators, it's great to know how it's done. And so you were very kind to be here. So I hope
You're
I
welcome.
can see you
Yes,
sometime in the future. So thank you so
absolutely.
much.
That was my pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Okay, so
We learned a little bit about we learned a lot about dubbing into these Native American languages and the challenges involved. And as I said before, sometimes we think we take so many things for granted. And this is, I mean, working with these endangered languages, it's quite different. So we thank them for the time, because this was amazing. So thank you for being there. It was a pleasure to be here as always. And see you next time with another Instagram Live. Stay tuned, because we will post everything on social media. So have a happy Sunday. Bye-bye.